So we'll start with the evacuation procedure. I think you all know it anyway, but 2 doors to go through. Please convene the car park and don't move until Pat tells you to. He'll be checking you off. Make sure we've got everybody out safely. So we've got no practice as far as no schedule for this evening. So if alarm goes, it's going to be real. Right, so apologies for absence. Councillor Hobley, substituted by Councillor Parsons. Councillor Jarvis, substituted by Councillor Clues. Councillor Reary, substituted by Councillor Jackson, and Councillor Singh, substituted by Councillor Simmons. So thank you for all those people joining us that aren't a member of the board, and you're very welcome.
Chair. Also, Councillor Harry Phillips is last minute child running problems, I'm afraid.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, we'll record this. Any disposable pecuniary interest from anywhere? Thank you so much. I'm not being notified of any public participation, so we'll move straight on to the minutes. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? Any proposals then for the minutes? Thank you very much, Councillor Amelia. A second, thank you very much, Andy. Councillor Jones. All those in favour of accepting the minutes? Thank you. I'll sign those at the end. Thanks very much. So we'll move on then to the paper, which is item 6, the North Warwickshire Greenstones and Plainfield statute. It's really good news, this report, because there are all sorts of things here. And I'll just hand over to Mike, do a quick introduction, and then any questions if there goes.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give a very brief introduction. So, members, this paper gives you what I hope you'll see is a very positive update on the progress being made in terms of open spaces, sports pitches, pavilions, play areas and biodiversity, in line with the programme that you've set us for the next few years. And in particular, ask you to approve in principle the to enter into a long-term lease with Atherton Rangers and with Hornford Junior Sports Club for community asset transfer of some of the pitches that we have, and that will also include some of the pavilions as they are upgraded as well, as you'll have seen in the paper.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Questions, comments? Thank you. Councillor Waffles.
Yeah, thank you. It's just a couple of wording clarifications really for what I read through. So going down to 5.5.1, Regis and Wharton, I just wanted to clarify the wording regarding the Borough Council is supporting Coleshill Parish Council to consult with local residents to determine the improvements. As with my other hat on as parish chair, we're not consulting. It's the Borough Council that's leading on that, and I just wanted that to be clear. And sort of further from that, really, we had some questions regarding a couple of the councillors from the parish. I think this is where the confusion happened, offered to help the borough in delivering some of the surveys. I think this is where the confusion happened, but we did raise it at the parish meeting that actually we're not part of the consultation, and that we made very clear, because obviously it potentially is our land that's going to be used, so we wanted that clear, you know, delineage at the beginning. But the other question that we had was over the GDPR regarding the information that was on those surveys, and we were given assurance by those parish councillors that the borough had all that in hand because they were handling sensitive data in surveys. So I was going to ask on the back end of this really if we could have some assurance, not necessarily tonight because I'm putting you on the spot, but because obviously there is that you know, legal aspect, and we weren't part of that, but obviously there may be questions from the residents about the handling of that sensitive data that was on the survey questions. So that was the first thing. And the second one was, again, it's just a query really, and Byron, don't take offence by this, but we often get put together with Dordon, and we're not a ward together. So obviously we're very close neighbours and we like being close neighbours with Dordon, but it just makes it look like we've had more done if you're going to put us together each time. whereas actually we need to be separate entities to show what was done in each ward. So going forward, I think that would be, I mean, Newton Regis and Wharton are part of the same ward, but for Dordon and Polesworth, we are separate.
Yeah.
So, you know, if that clarity could be made just for future, just so that, you know, it aligns properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So please in future separate Polesworth and Dordon, and also some reassurance on, oh yes, right, just 1 second, and reassurance on the GDPR. So,
So does that mean Dordon and Polesworth Sports Centre is going to be separate, or something? You know, you can't have one and not the other. So what is it?
I think if I'm not taking words in your mouth, it's just the reporting.
Yeah.
It's just the reporting that, so we can say this has been done in Polesworth, this has been done in Dordon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be things, sorry, Chair, through you. There's going to be things that are jointly for 2 wards together anywhere in the borough, isn't it? But I think the way it's always worded looks like we are already
So like
a
your
joint
combined
community, and we're not. And I think the residents quite like the fact that we're separate, but we're very good friends and neighbours. I think that's the way that we would like to be known. Thank you.
Is that right, Aaron?
Yes.
Thank you. Mike, can you just give some reassurance?
Yes, certainly. Certainly on that last point, we can in future reference
Thank
the
you.
separate groups. Not a problem there. In terms of GDPR, I haven't actually seen the survey, but I will make sure that officers check that there is some assurance around that survey data and how it's being used. And I'm quite happy to take the clarification around the fact that the parish council is not leading on the
Yeah,
consultation.
thank you.
Councillor Jones? Is your hand up again?
Just a couple of what I think of Oaktree posted comments. 4.2.1 on the K barriers. The K barriers being Kingsbury, I feel they have been really successful at stopping the problem of mountain bikes and using that. I think I've mentioned before that it's not Church Lane, it's not anywhere near Church Lane. It's between Bromwich Avenue and Kingsbury Hall Drive. So Church Lane is a bit further on. So the location isn't Church Lane, but where they are has been very successful. 4.6.1, the midday out in Kingsbury, that was a really good day. I went along to, it's really successful. I think residents were pleased to see that come to Kingsbury. I don't ever remember it getting Kingsbury before. And if we keep beyond the schedule put together again, I think we'll be very happy.
Brilliant, thank you. And Councillor Clues and then Councillor
Thank you.
Jackson.
I think it's a really good piece of work, you know, and there's some work gone into it. It's just the B recommendation to the board, and it's just a comment that you know, for a long time I kept kind of pleading for some money out of the budget for the pavilion in Manchester. But what I'm really disappointed is that neither of the ward members in Manchester have been consulted on this at all. I had one meeting and seen the plans, but there's been no meetings to do with the lease. I did ask for a meeting for the ward members, me and Councillor Barnett, to meet with the rangers. That never came aboard. And if I hadn't have been subbing tonight and I had the papers and looked through the papers, I would not have known that this lease was coming tonight, because there's been no consultation with neither of the ward members. To just fit, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Mike?
Yes, certainly. I would normally expect board members to be consulted on changes in their ward, and that would be normal practice as I understand it. So if you haven't been consulted, either of ward members, I apologise for that, and I'll make sure that further correspondence and conversation do take place with not just yourself but other ward members as well in their respective wards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I just wanted to, sorry, Chair. I just wanted to say a really big thumbs up to ANSI Workshops and the Porchwood football have done so much work already. It's looking amazing. And I was really impressed to see that they're looking to start working in Arley, and I think that would be really positive. So I'd definitely give that a thumbs up. And I'd also like to say a big thank you about the K barriers that have been installed in Anstey Common and Arley, because they're certainly making a difference.
Brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Waffles, did I see your hand again?
Yeah, it's just I forgot that the wildlife trust appendix was part of this one, so apologies. I was just going to sort of big up the work that's been done there, and just to add that Councillor Osborne and myself have funded some additional funding to support some of the volunteers, and it led me to think, is there any recognitions that we have for volunteers for work that they do, because they've worked tirelessly. And I just wanted to sort of give this opportunity. They are mentioned briefly, but not by name, but there's a picture of them sort of going off in the background. But I just wondered if there was any recognition for them, because they do work really hard. Thank you.
Yeah, was that about that point?
Yes.
Do you want to come in then?
Yeah, just very quickly, yeah, just to say that one of the leading volunteers there too, actually, that John Alton was actually honoured at a previous borough honouring of volunteers for his work, which he was very, very so, I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't be done again, but there has been recognition. It was John and Matt Tenley were both recognised for the work they did. Yeah.
We have on occasion had what we call them, community awards, where we put forward residents that have made a real contribution, and maybe I don't quite know how often we've done them, but we do them at least once in an administration. So yeah, that would be an opportunity to do that. Thank you. Did I see any? Oh yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes, just a quick one, if I may, Chair, on 5.4, referring to Coleshill about the Coal End Park. Just a real recorded thank you to Eleanor Evans for the work that she's done, been going around Coleshill with me, in particular Coal End Park, and she's arranged for another bench to go in the park and another bin that's been long needed in the area. So I'm grateful to Eleanor for that. I've been asked by a couple of residents about a bench to go in, and I don't know exactly what it's called as far as the Borough Council is concerned. I can just tell you that it's what we call a leisure area that's the other side of the Greenman Crossroads in Coleshill, and the other side from the Greenman Public House. There's a nice little leisure area there, but I've been asked by senior citizens, as it happens, one of which I'm one, but people are saying that when they walk up, it's nice to be able to sit down there if they're walking up and down the high street. So my question is do I seek funding via Eleanor or via our councillor funding? I just wondered if somebody could give me some guidance on that, so I know who to approach, please. Thank you.
So just have the initial discussion with Eleanor, and I'll pass on your thanks. Thank you, appreciated. And then if that isn't available through the standard budgets, then we can talk about what the opportunities might look like in terms of how that might be achieved.
I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Andy, did you have any?
Yeah. So page 47, as regards the right, it's got with canalisation, sediment makes a considerable impact on the ecology of the river, smothering the substrate of the river bed and blocking the interstices. And excess of fine sediment changes the morphology, the plant communities and the natural flow in the river, and negatively impacts fish and insect numbers. Now, we've had issues down at Grenion with flooding for a long time, and basically forming flood run down there, and we've all been told by the Environment Agency that basically if you took the sediment out of the river at Grenion, the River Anchor, granted it runs from Nuneaton to Telmouth, yeah, there'll be a lot of sediment to take out. They're stating that it doesn't make a bit of difference, and yet what's caused a lot of the problems at Grenion is the fact that they took the canalised the inside of Birch Coppice, and it's dredged every year religiously, and basically the water gets away from Birch Coppice very quickly, and the flooding at Grenion has got increasingly worse. So I don't know this area of Coleshill, but what I'm saying is, if that part of the river is dredged on a regular basis, what about properties further downstream where the where this river is not dredged.
Are we got officers that can respond to that? Or do we need to get the Environment Agency in to talk to us about it?
I'm afraid we don't have that answer this evening, but I can certainly take that on board and come back to members with a response on that and find out.
It might be an idea in a future meeting to have some idea of the Environment Agency's policy on this and why it's okay to dredge the coal and not the anchor. And there might be very good reason for it, but I have no idea what they are. So it just helps us because we've all got potential flooding in our areas. And I think, you know, it would just be helpful to have the answers. Andy?
Well, just to be clear, they have stated that's the policy countrywide, if you like,
What, to not dredge?
to not dredge. It wouldn't make any difference at all.
Well, let's see what, they've always changed their mind in terms of the river coal. Well, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. This particular thing on River Colburn Park restoration project, I think at the moment lies more with the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust than the environmental agency, although I'm sure they'll be playing a part. I did have the good opportunity to meet with Emily Riley. I think it's Sue Hartland Smith, I think her name is. They took me through some of this, but still taking it in my head to go through this. But in that discussion that I had at the Nature Centre in Colesill on Hams Hall, it was agreed that we would take a presentation through to Colesill Town Council. I believe that's on the agenda for the next council meeting, which gives Emily and Sue the opportunity to explain to town councillors, and obviously the borough councils will be there as well, as indeed will county councillors, I hope, and to explain this is what will be happening or what is being proposed, should I say. So they've got the opportunity to put forward their comments after that presentation, but it is also the intention for the Wildlife Trust to actually do a consultation. Sue and Emily thought it would be helpful actually do a consultation actually on the ground so people come along. But I also asked that we also consider that we have a public consultation actually in the town hall itself that gives probably later in the day, that gives people who may be working the opportunity to listen more about this. I like the idea at the moment, but I need more information. But I can see it's talking about meandering the River Cole through Colburn Park, and the intention is as well is actually to reduce the flooding into that area, which is well known as a floodplain, particularly the Litchfield Road area, and also from the other side of the historic bridge, where that's manned by the Environmental Agency. And decades ago, Chair, there was a wall that was put up around by the Wheatsheaf Public House and at the back of all the businesses around there to stop them from flooding, and for many decades it has stopped. But I think, Chairman, finally, that maybe that if officers could arrange for a presentation here at the Borough Council to explain a little bit more, and then maybe Andy get an idea again about his area as well. I think it would be very helpful and very welcomed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much. Okay. Everyone happy that we go to the recommendations now? So recommendations are on page 6 of 57 or 6.1, I'm not quite sure where we're going with this. So there's 3 recommendations that we note the progress made in terms of the green space strategy, and that we note that the proposal to enter into a long-term lease with Atherstone Rangers be approved, and a long-term lease with Hortwood Junior Sports Club also be approved in principle. As a proposer, thanks Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Wapples. All those in favour? Okay, thanks very much. That's carried. So we move on then to a flight update. People going to item number 7. Andy, are you introducing this, or are you just answering questions?
Brilliant, Chair. I'll do a brief introduction. Because I appreciate 10 months of flown by since the original presentation. Since that time, the working with other authorities and other police forces have matured over that time to assist us in investigations, especially close to home, our own streetscape team, who I've got to know quite well. They're on the end of the phone. So as well as the incidents that I actually go out to myself and look at, the streetscape team have got a better idea of what to look for, and they either provide evidence directly to me or they highlight a particular fly tip or incident to me, which I can then follow up. So that's producing good results. Working with our local police, obviously it's my old team, so that makes it quite easy. But we're looking to coordinate an operation in the near future. We're requesting their use of the drone, which, if it's available, we've been using that to good effect. Also been looking at the tactics that I've described in the original presentation, some new tactics to try and deter fly tipping. We're looking at about 3. I mentioned the one, albeit the answer is no, but it just gives you an idea what we're actually thinking about. So I was thinking about the visors on the motorway, the big overhead visors that you drive under, and quite often there's nothing on them. I was thinking of an idea that perpetrators coming into North Warwickshire, because the big fly tips that I tend to investigate aren't local, they're coming in from other areas. Basically put it to highways, asking them if during the off-peak hours we could have a message on the visor to potential offenders coming in, i.e. no, zero tolerance, unlimited fine, fly tippers beware, that kind of thing. Went backwards and forwards a few times to highways, but eventually they said no, which isn't the best answer we want, but I just want to give you an idea of the thought process that we're going through. On the back of that, there are visors. By visors, you know what I mean with the digital message. You may have seen them at temporary roadworks on trailers, where it's a smaller system that they can be used to really good effect as well. We could use them in hotspot areas, so we're looking at that and the costings potentially around that. And coming down a bit cheaper is an A-frame situation where we have quite a large high visibility A3 sign with a camera on it, with obviously no fly tipping, this area is under surveillance, etc., etc. And that's more mobile, and that can be used far easier, if you like. We'll have them, once we've got them, we'll have them to deploy at hotspot areas around the borough. I understand from a local authority who use them, and I've actually seen the results of which there's a lay-by on the A444, always covered in litter. These signs, I'll travel twice past it during the day, it's always covered in litter. One of these A-frames was put up and literally it stopped it overnight. Now, touch wood, I know we're litter fly tipping, but I saw it in action and it seemed to work. So that's something we'll definitely be getting in place. Good news stories. I've got quite a few really. You've seen the fines that we've issued. One jumps to mind, it's only quite recent. Having gone out with a mini patrol with the Wishaw Parish Council, looking at sites around Wishaw to put their CCTV trail cams. The very next day after that, they emailed me and said, "You never believe one of the sites that we chose, there's a big fly tip," and they sent me some addresses. Followed that up, and this is unusual because it normally takes a good while, but this was all wrapped up within 2 weeks. So the person on the address actually lived at the address and actually responded to me, coming for interview, put their hands up and admitted to the fly tip there and then, full and frank admission, remorseful, etc. £600 fine. And that was all done in 2 weeks. So that was, in terms of a good news story for the local parish, if you like, that got involved in that. it kind of showed them with communication and sort of prompt reporting. It really showed them some good feedback. Other than that, Chair, I'm open to.
Yeah, thank you, that's great. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's amazing the work that's been put in already, and the difference is fantastic. I know in my local area, in hotspot areas, you've put the camera signs, and they're certainly making a difference. Obviously, it's still an ongoing problem and will be. I was just curious to see whether you're still going to plan to put, like, you know, the yellow tape round before you actually remove it for a few days, because I've not seen any like pictures of that or anything. And then in Nuneaton, they've got a much bigger problem than what we have, but they decided to have like a week long where they took loads of their fly tipping and left it in the town with big like barriers around it to show people the sort of things that have been done. I don't know whether that's an idea, just I know it's not local people really that are doing the fly tipping, but it was quite a good idea. You know.
It's impactful.
We take a couple of other questions and we'll come back to you, Andy. Emma, and then
Yeah, I was just going to say, could you tell us why the highway said no? Or is that confidential?
No, it's not confidential. Sorry, through you, Chair. It didn't fit with their protocols in terms of having that kind of message on the speed visor. So they wanted the messaging connected with only issues that affect the roadway. So my reply was organised crime gangs, which a lot of this is, use the network. But alas, they said no.
That was off a try.
Andy.
Yeah, one area feels to me that just get a lot of fly tipping problems is Rush Lane between Kingsbury and Dosthill. It crisscrosses the border between North Warwickshire and Tamworth. You mentioned working with authorities. So do you work with Tamworth on that particular area? And is that an area that's on your sort of radar as a problem area? Because it regularly gets a lot of fly tipping there.
Through you, Chair. Rush Lane isn't flagging up in my mind as being an area that's been reported, that lane. I do work with staffs. Yeah, so we've got contact there who used to work here, so it's quite good in that respect that we've already garnered that relationship. But I have to say, Rush Lane, I'm not aware of.
So I think at the moment, but it's an area that, you know, repeatedly gets a lot of fly.
You're always welcome to email me should something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just before I go to Councillor Simmons, do you want a quick response to Michaela's point about Nuneaton and what they're doing? But I understand that they're leaving the fly tipping for a week so everybody sees where it is.
Well, that's the idea that Andy was saying about in his presentation that he's going to start doing. But Nuneaton did like a one-off in the town for a whole week, highlighting fly tipping and showing people the sort of things that are being dumped and how much it costs. You know, because a lot of local people were quite shocked on how much the council is actually spending on clearing up fly tipping. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows Rabbit Lane, but the fly tipping down there is horrendous. And that they said no sooner are they clearing it up down there, it's 10 times worth. Obviously, that's not in our borough, but I just thought it was a really good idea.
Chair, it certainly sounds intriguing and maybe a call just to see how that works for them. The roll of tape that you mentioned, I've pretty much finished. I've got to order another roll. So obviously, not every fly tip is cordoned off per se. So I tend to choose which ones are, and quite often without the bollards, which I thought would be a great idea, but my boot and my car is already given to this job. I've got no boot space for anything. So I was thinking of using bollards with the tape, but instead I use whatever nature gives us, whether it's a branch or something. Sometimes that isn't there. But I have used literally a roll of that tape up, so I am doing that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons and then Councillor Watson.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on some of the areas, but at Dormill Lane, Chester, that's a particularly prolific area. Because obviously it's a little bit hidden, about the way, but it blocks the lane completely. Albeit I'm not the councillor for Dormill Estate, I do seem to get phone calls from people, do know people that live within that city, they can again, I'll get through. So is there particular areas you're targeting for activity? Because there's people are claiming that they're providing information about, information that could be prosecutable, but it's not being necessarily picked up in that way. So maybe that's something to take on that. But the other thing was I wanted to comment on about the use of social media, and I've seen that you put on there about using social media more. And your fly tipping Fridays. It sounds like an invitation, doesn't it? Fly tipping Fridays. But I just want to say, actually, to commend you, keep putting it on there, even though the comments from the public are somewhat negative because they don't believe the finding is of anything like the level it should be, and we all agree on that. But I do think that we should still keep putting it out there. I know the comments that go with it. There's never any well done. There's never any that's brilliant. They've been caught. It's always is that's just not enough, and that's. It's always very negative. So I just wanted to say to make sure to still do it because it is worth it. I think it's still worth putting out there. Get people arguing for and prosecutions are a focus.
Thank you. It's just down to Councillor Watson.
Thank you. I'm curious as to where the drone comes into this, the drone that's been purchased and licensed, because obviously the operators of a drone, they're the ones that need to have the license, the skills and things like that, and how that's actually going to help us in the fly tipping, because you can't just have anybody fly a drone. You've got to have the person with a license to fly a drone. They've got to be trained to fly a drone, and they've got to be at the right place at the right time. So I'm just curious where that fits into this.
Chair, short answer.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. Through you, Chair. Dormill Lane does feature greatly. I'm very much aware of it. I have, as they call it, target harden the lane with signage, because, well, there's a lot of perception around signage because obviously criminals tend to not read it and move on. However, it does afford us legally the availability of putting trail cams in an area where we've highlighted that we are actually using trail cams. So the signage is necessary not only for people to read and see that we've been there, and that we're aware of it, but also it allows us a certain amount of actionable work in that area. I have got a prosecution that's linked to Dormill Lane, but that's upstairs. But yeah, I am aware of Dormill. Social media wise, yeah, indeed, if everybody just tips on Friday, it'd be great. You could certainly target it easier. So we have had a recent meeting to nurture a better response in terms of communications. We have had PERDA, which has obviously allowed for a certain law over the last X amount of weeks. But hopefully, moving forward, it will be more of a weekly rather than every now and then when capacity allows. It will be a weekly situation where a case or some kind of education is put out on social media.
Thank you. Let's answer on the drone question.
Yes, that's through you, Chair. Totally understand where you're coming from with regards to drone. So fortunately, I'm a drone pilot. I was a drone pilot with the police before starting work with the authority. So I've got that qualification in place. We have looked at capacity of what can be done with the drone, other than future proof in the authority around drone work, where we know that a lot of other authorities use drone for various capacities. As we're talking about fly tipping, it certainly allows for evidence gathering in a way that you can't do from ground level. If you was putting a case together to court, an aerial view of the impact of fly tipping rather than just an image taken at ground level can be quite a thing, quite an impact is the word. Also in terms of gaining access to areas that you may struggle on foot if somebody's dumping a lot of waste illegally, burying it, etc. It allows for evidence gathering in that way. And obviously other departments would I'm sure find it helpful to use a drone.
Thank you. Peter, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. It's in fact it is another thank you, if I may, especially to Andy, because when we first met via telephone, again he was very helpful. A bit of teamwork. We had a particular field in Coleshill, heading towards Chelmsford Wood, but it was in a field where there was absolutely an horrendous length, as you saw in the photos, of fly tipping. But thankfully, talking to the company informed me that it was actually tenanted and that the tenants actually removed it all. So I was very grateful, and thank you to Andy. And again, I've got likewise, certainly in the Council Toons area, I think it's probably on your list that Packington Lane is one that is very, very well known for fly tipping. Incidentally, I've noticed as well an increasing situation, like I guess many, from the A45, although it comes under Solihull, then borders into North Warwickshire, going along the 446 to junction 4 of the M6 through Coleshill, and then right the way up to junction 9, going past Waterall and Curdworth to that area. And particularly, you can see entrances of farmers and tenanted areas, as the entrances as well as on the land, where there's a hell of a lot of fly tipping. And if you were responsible, Andy, because I think I mentioned to you that was on an entrance on that same road up from where the big field was, that I think you got that road. And then damn me if I saw 2 days ago and again today where somebody else has tipped a load more stuff on there, and so it goes on. So I guess I'm asking Andy, and I'm sure the answer will be very difficult. How do we handle the situation or help farmers and tenants that get fly tipping dumped at the entrance to their land or on the land itself? And my final question is, if I may, regarding social media on your fly tipping Fridays, does that go on to the community Facebook pages in Coleshill, please? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I know exactly the spot you mean. It is a repetitive location. Working with landowners, which I'd like to do more of. I have done that. I'd like to obviously increase that. Like a lot of cases, it's all about evidence gathering, and that's where they can help us. In their own right, is to in some way fortify their land. Whether that's CCTV, there's a number of things they can do there which can be discussed with them. Whatever evidence is produced to me, I'll act on. So other than the reassurance that can be provided to them, which is quite a big thing, because quite often, as you say, they just think they'll just have all this fly tipping, they have to pay for its removal, and then it obviously happens again. And we need to obviously work together to reduce that. And I'm happy to do that, to have that conversation with them. In terms of the gateways, where it's actually on our responsibility to remove, if you like, but it's always in their gateway, then that's certainly something that I can action, whether it's looking at it as a hotspot, putting signage up on the gate, which is quite common. I'll put signage up on the gate for them and place a trail cam and just keep that line of communication open with them.
Thank you very much.
I think if I may just say that the keyword I was going to bring up actually, Andy, was the partnership, like Solihull with the fly tipping, and also what partnership work we can do and help and information that we can do with farmers and tenants of land to help. So I can imagine the frustration that they must have. And just the answer about the community Facebook page on Coleshill, are the information of the fly tipping Fridays, is it put on for that? I think Sharon might go off with that. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, yeah, councillor Fowler, we had a meeting, as we said, with comms the other day.
Right.
We were talking about the Facebook page and website, etc. They are going to put it on the NWBC Facebook page because they haven't got the capacity to put it on everybody's. So they just said if we're asked if you could just share it to we'll put it on our Facebook page, and then if you could share it to your local Facebook pages.
Thank you. Just finally quickly coming in, that was what I mentioned some months ago, was that you have borough councillors and we are able to put stuff on our community Facebook pages. So if you can send the information to councillors, then we can put it on there for you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So we're just asked to note that report, so we don't need to vote on it. Everybody's happy to note it. That's all. We'll move on to the air quality update. And you'll see that we've had, you may remember, we've had some sensors in 8 different locations that look at NOx and also particulate matter. And apparently we don't exceed the government targets on any of it. So I'm just going to go straight to questions, if that's all right. Thank you, Emma.
I have a question, because I always have a question about these monitors. Thank you, first of all, because I know that, we've raised this many times, particularly in our locations, about the importance of this. And I'm really pleased that we don't breach anything. However, I just wondered if we could have some more detail for the public, particularly about where the monitors are, and also where the hotspots are, because that's mentioned. And obviously, from our point of view, that would be really useful. So first of all, thank you. But secondly, could we have that detail? Because obviously I don't expect to reel off 28, 29, whatever they are. And then the hotspots would be really, really useful. Thank you.
That would be helpful. And also, the question which came up earlier about is this the average? Do we have peaks where it does exceed the government requirements? Do we just take an average? So while I'm speaking as well, another question for you is, now that we've done those 8 locations, are we moving them to elsewhere? Because then you could add that on to a report. So this is where they've been and this is where they're going to go. Thanks, Niven.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just so on the first response. So I can send over an email with all of the locations. They're on Airlie's website. So you can go to see our logo on there that we're the ones that purchased it through the conf fund. So yes, I can send that email across. And then on the average, yes. So it works out on average when we receive the report, but something that I've been working with at the moment, I'm in conversation with Birmingham University, which is trying to get somebody as part of their course to look at our data and actually we break down the data to show us spikes. So is it, so I know from Long Street, Goldworth, and in Jordan and in certain areas that there's peaks during home time. So we do see that in the data. Anybody can go on to the website, it's live. You get live data, so you can see whether it's home time or your commuting times, that you can see those peaks on there. But yes, that we get an overall average. The 28 locations, but I can also send across.
Could you send the link to the website round, please?
Yeah, just wonder if when we're talking of peaks, I mean, I know a lot of particulates is from traffic and the like, but also I believe some of the culprits are wood burners, which are quite prevalent in terms of particulates. So I wonder if when you're looking at the peaks, we perhaps should look at seasonal peaks as well, because that's, I mean, I don't think I'm well aware that people don't want to pollute with wood burners, but it is there, and we do have to be aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah, that is something that we're looking at. And Councillor, you mentioned the issue of moving them, and that is something that we're also considering. It does come with a cost to move them, so then we'd have a conversation about where that funding comes from. But looking at the locations right now, they are not that we, from the complaints that we're receiving, we don't have any other hotspots that we can focus on. But we do ask if there's any councillors are aware of a specific area or road that they think should be monitored. I understand councillor Fowler mentioned Coleshill before, so that's a location you can look at. There's different areas that we can focus on. If we can kind of get that feedback into us, we can focus on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I should continue with the thank you. So thank you, Milan, because I think she knew where I was coming from, because we had conversations when she mentioned that several air quality monitors were going into Waterorton, which I certainly welcomed, but then would like to have seen it extended to Coleshill, because as Milan will appreciate, with the HS2 that we've got, and then along with HS2 with the workings that are going on there and the HGVs that are constantly transporting earthworks all the way to and from the various areas, and then we're then having to suffer closures, particularly on the M42, thus directing HGVs and all other transport through the Coleshill, because the 446 is seen as the diversion route. So what I'm saying is, Chair, is that the air quality is being greatly increased in dust, etc. And I am, unfortunately, me living on the 446, not literally on it, but on Grimstock Hill on there, that I have residents either side who are saying to me, when are we going to get some air quality for what we're having to go through? So that's my question, and it sounds like Milan's going to look at Coleshill, which I thank you very much, and I can inform residents that is being looked at. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons.
Thank you. With a similar theme, to be honest. There was a report that came out in May about the 11 most polluted places in Warwickshire, and one of them was listed to be Blythe Road in Coleshill. But the data that they presented as part of that report was from 2023. So, you know, it's 2 years out of date, and in that time the crossroads work's been done and the idling of cars and all the rest of it's changed. So I wonder whether or not some of the data that is out there and it's being reported on and almost issued as current, but when you dig into it is old, is giving the public a sort of a false sense of what's okay and what isn't. And you know, we've got in the most 11 polluted places in Warwickshire is Coleshill Blythe Road. You know, that was a bit of a screaming headline in our local Facebook group. But, you know, it took 2 minutes to sort of say, well, actually, that was 2 years ago and things have changed and they've addressed the road and all the rest. So how can we get data out there to people in a more meaningful way and actually sort of share something regularly through our own social media, saying, you know, I know there's the link to the air quality, but and you can click on it. Those 8 have been moved now, haven't they? So wherever they end up next, it's a bit sort of, how do we select the areas? Are they nominated by people? Are they hotspot areas that have been identified? How are they identified, I suppose, is the question.
Through you, Chair. So the data, the reason that the record is 2023 is because the way that we submit the annual status report. So for 2020, so this month, I'm currently working on it right now, we submit 2024's data. So the last bit of data that's public, according to the EFRA, is 2023. So that's where they would have got that bit of data from. We can definitely work on doing maybe quarterly reports or like posts on social media or on our website to give people an update on this is what our current status is. But yeah, I'll definitely take that away and we can look at our comms on that side of things as well.
Because there's an opportunity there, isn't there, to say, you know, 2023 data. And now the current data, we can show the impact of the crossroads work and show that hopefully the air quality has improved as a result. Hasn't. A few questions. Okay, thanks very much. So everybody happy to go on then. So we again asked to note that Joe was content that we don't have to clarify on that. So thank you very much. So we'll come to the health and wellbeing working party minutes. Sandra, do you want to have a few words?
Thank you, Jen. Just to inform you of our latest project, we had a spotlight visit from the PCN, Apollo PCN, which are based at the Hazelwood Group practice. They've got 5 practices. What they've managed to achieve so far, I think, is if I was still a working district nurse, I'd be getting quite excited. They've got a frailty hub, which they've started on, which is for people over 65 who've got multiple problems. And they visit into the surgeries and they have all sorts of tests and things done to them and by them, and they have a cup of tea and they get quite excited about it. But they're looking at things from the physio, they see a doctor, they see a nurse, they see the pharmacist, diabetic nurses, and they get baseline observations so that then they take all this information home with them. And so if they're ill, or they have a visit, and people can see where they were and where they are, if they're getting worse and such, so they can act quicker. We started looking at it because we were looking at things like falls that were causing people to go into hospital and stay in hospital, where your bed blocking starts and finishes really. But it's quite an exciting thing. I wish we were doing it countrywide because I think it made a great deal of difference. And just one thing that we talked about was the pharmacist. And you go into some elderly people's homes and they've got boxes and boxes of medication that's been on a repeat prescription for 20 years and nobody's ever taken them off it. And if you're getting a little bit dementia, I find that dangerous because you don't know what they're going to do with it. But it's the cost as well. And just in a few months, I think they saved in one area about £60,000 just on taking people off the prescriptions and doing them properly. So, if we did that countrywide, we'd be saving our NHS quite a lot of money. It sounds like a drop in the ocean, but you add it all up and it just wasn't it. They're thinking of extending it out to care homes, but when we talk to them about this, transport's going to be a problem. So as the health and wellbeing, we have got some funding left. We did say if they got some funding that we could help with, we'd be happy to look at it. But at the moment, it is only in five surgeries. So if we all start telling all our residents to go and go to the frailty club, there's not many of them that are going to be able to do it, but hopefully the word will get around and interest some people. The other thing we looked at, we had a pilot scheme going on some time ago now about school absences, and I think they've worked really hard on this from a perspective, and they are reducing gradually. We've got a downward trajectory, and whether it's good or whether it's bad, I'm not sure, but they were quite pleased because other areas, their trajectory is going up. So we're hoping we might cross some way and improve a lot more. But that's been working well.
Thank you, Emma.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Sandra said about the frailty hub. With my NHS background, I was cock-a-hoop as well about the multidisciplinary team and the one-stop shop. So if you can get the patient there, they can access lots of things all at once and they can work together to sort of, look at them as a whole, which is great. Just on the point about the absences, yes, it's on a downward trajectory, but I remember raising the point that actually we're still above the national average. So I think we do need to do some work on that as a borough, but we are in the right direction, but we're still high. So that's just, sorry, Sandra, just to put that point. But yeah, really excited about the frailty hub and hope that other surgeries can use this pilot as a bit of a showcase, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just mention that the Hartsville Health Centre is my surgery, and one of the partners asked me to go to speak to him, and he was telling me about this and saying about moving into care homes. And I made the point, if you look at the PCN, the number, the different surgeries, there's no geographical cohesion to this PCN. It's from all over North Warwickshire, Nuneaton and Bedford. And I asked him why, and he said these are like-minded practices who want to address prevention. It's rather sad that not all practices do that, but what they said was they've been in two different PCNs before and were fed up banging their head against a brick wall. So they've now joined with practices that want to do the same thing, and they're making huge progress. So that's really something we should support. It's brilliant. So thank you. Thanks for the work you're doing on that.
Chair.
Yes, sorry, Denise, and then Dave.
Yeah, it's a question for you, Chair, just, but I think you've answered it, was how did they choose these surgeries? Was it the NHS that chose them, or did they choose to go into it? Because I think it's a brilliant piece of work, and I sit on our PPG board at our doctor's surgery, and I'd like to take this there, and I'm sure they'd be interested. And if they haven't, I'd like to know why they.
Yeah,
didn't
well,
take the
that's a good
opportunity.
question. Good
Yeah.
question to ask them. They formed it by recognising like-minded practices, and then went to the Integrated Care Board and said we would like to form a new PCN, and they agreed to it. So that's how it happened. Dave.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely like to welcome the work of the Frailty Clinic, but I have some personal experience of it because my wife attended one at Hartshill. One of the problems was that it's a Frailty Clinic, but she had to go upstairs to get there. But we'll forget that bit. But the other point is that I wonder whether they could have a slightly different classification. She, along with several other attendees at the Frailty Clinic, didn't feel they were frail, if you see what I mean. And the title can be a bit off-putting. That is something, I don't know whether you have a slightly less frail group or whatever, but frailty is a label that doesn't actually help people to go in sometimes.
Sandra.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, we did have quite a lengthy discussion on what we could call it because a lot of people said, no, I'm not going to that, I'm not frail.
Yeah.
And it's the individual accepting that they are frail. It's not that easy. Get to a certain age, you don't really want to admit it, but we couldn't really come up with something better.
Yeah, they are discussing that. I know the PPG's discussing that because I was invited and I was outraged. I went, but I was outraged at being called frail. But with my obviously with my history last year, I was on top of the list. But anyway, so yes, but as I said, I don't want to be called frail, and they are looking at it. And hopefully they'll come up with something. Thank you, Caroline.
Just a really quick question. How do people get identified to go, or do they see something and choose to go? How do they get identified to go?
It's over at 65, isn't it? Yeah. And people who've either had history of going in hospital, in my case, or who have got long-term conditions and are likely to have an admission. So they look at their hospital records, and the whole point of this is to keep people out of hospital. That's the reason.
The reason I ask is that, I look after a chap who's in his late 80s who doesn't identify as elderly or frail, and he's both of those things, but he doesn't identify as that. And I just wondered whether or not it would be something you suggested to them that they go, or whether the GP surgeries contact them and invite them.
Yes,
to come.
they invite
You get an invite.
You get an invite. By invite, okay.
Well, it's not wife.
Did you have another comment, David?
No, I was just going to say that.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, lovely. So well done again, the working party. They're doing great work. Thank you very much. Again, we just have to note that. Thank you. So moving on then to the climate change member group. So Pete, you want to do
Thank you, Chair. Nice to be able to bring climate change minutes. So first of all, for me, start off on the first page on 4, although about feedback from my good self, having had the meeting with Warwickshire County Council. But when we had the meeting on the 29th of April, we hadn't received the minutes from them, so we had to move. But I've been assured now that we will be making and hopefully ensuring that the minutes come to us much earlier. One of the ideas when we have our meetings is that we allow the county council to have their partnership meeting, which then allows us to then be ahead of them by a couple of weeks. So then we can then bring those minutes from the county to the actual group. But unfortunately, on that occasion, that didn't happen. So hopefully that Rob Snape, our interim streetscape policy lead, will be ensuring that we can get those much easier for members. Turning on the other page, members will see where it's talked about that Rob actually went through a number of areas. talking about the Atherstone Leisure redesign, and then talking about the electrification, should I say, of our fleet. That won't include our waste vehicles, because if I remember, Kath, they're too heavy, carry too much of a load to be able to go on EV. But we're looking at other areas, and it has mentioned about council owned car park. At the moment, I think we're concentrating on the depot that we've got. The council car park will be looked at a further date, and the local energy planning, and is something that is an ongoing work with Robert again, and he'll be bringing us up to date with those in due course. Sadly, the next climate change partnership meeting from the county council was due to go ahead next Tuesday. I think it's the 11th. Sadly, because of the administration change at the county, I think it's some councillors understandably getting their feet wet. So therefore, they decided to cancel or postpone the next meeting for a further date, so they can get some more intel, and then we look forward to that as well. One thing that I have mentioned as well, I'm quite excited to see that we have on our website our 4 focused areas that we do on our climate change. But the one thing I was saddened to see that out of the 7 focus areas that we've got, where we actually talk about what we need to do, the areas that are missing is what we are doing, and that is in housing and waste. So I've asked Rob and talked to officers to actually, we need to have that information of what you're actually working on at the moment, so we can put that on the public document on the website. So I'm hoping that will come very soon. We are putting together an agenda at the moment, which will include eventually the feedback from myself from the county council. Rob is also bringing the climate scorecard that the country and we're part of. The results are not coming out until the 11th of June, so we should be having our next meeting in early July to look at the results, the interpretation, and what progress we want to do to get ourselves even higher. And I will carry on with my thanks, and that will be to Kath, because she did come up with a great suggestion, I think at full council, when we were talking about the Atherstone Leisure Centre, and one of the gentlemen, my ears pricked up when he talked about recycling. So Kath suggested that a company representative came along to our group and then tell us about what materials they're using, how they're using recycling material, which for me I think is very good news. And then finally, that Rob will then be telling us about our climate action plan 2024. So all in all, I'm very excited the way we are moving forward. I know in some areas a little bit slowly, but slowly catching on, we will be getting there, and I'm quite pleased. And I reckon again to thank Rob Snape for all the work that he does behind the scenes. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Peter. Thank you for sharing it. Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. First of all, Councillor Phillips, I don't know which one it is. I just wondered if we could have clarity on which one was there, because it just says Councillor Phillips. So
it was me.
Okay, thank you. The main point I was going to make was, Peter, do you have any plans to work with the parish and town councils to sort of get a bit more, I don't know, support and maybe ideas on how we can sort of help with the local issues? I was just thinking, springing to mind about potentially for the electric vehicle charging and things like that. And I just wondered whether there's any scope in expanding, working with other, layers of council. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and through you, Chair, that was something that I think Kath, Rob and myself did talk about a while ago. In fact, one of the things was communications and talking to community hubs and communities, and one of those was also to the town and parish councils. So just forbear us for a little while, but yes, I hope to get that information out. And the other thing I did forget to add is that when we've got the minutes of our next climate action group, I've asked that those are circulated to all members, so that gives them the opportunity, whether they're borough, town, to come back to us with their various information. So the answer is yes, we will be talking with, or making sure schools and others, as well as town and parishes, are aware of what we're doing. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Thank you. So again, we just know that. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the work that you do there. So now I move on to, I have to read this out, sorry. So to consider, in accordance with section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, whether it's in the public interest that the public interest be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of the exempt information as defined by Schedule 12A to the Act. I can have a proposal for that, please. Councillor Amelia, seconded by Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Sorry, I need to ask you to leave.